Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Trooper Stephen Lamani. I'm the Public Relations Officer for the State Police in Troop A, which covers Unity Township, which is where we're at today. And we're here to talk about a missing person that we once had, Elizabeth Pollard. And we wanted to talk about the fact that she was found today, and we're going to go into the logistics and all the efforts that took place. Before we get into all of those things, I'd like to introduce the people that you see in front of you that have been a part of the efforts basically since the inception of when she first disappeared. To my right, we have the incident commander for this week's event, Scott Graham. And continuing to the right, we have the chief in charge of operations, John Batcha, and our Unity Township supervisor, Mike Oborto. And immediately to my left, we have the site commander for the Pennsylvania State Police and my supervisor, Sergeant Heather Clem. To her left, we have the Troop A commander for our entire area. It's Captain David Sora. To his left, we have the director of PEMA, Randy Padfield. And last but certainly not least, the director of our public safety for our region, Roland Mertz. To finish up with some more logistical things, I want to talk a little bit about the amount of departments that were here and some of the partnerships we had. This was obviously a very unified command that we had, and it pooled resources from, basically all over southwestern Pennsylvania. We had 25 fire departments that were here, Westmoreland Technical Rescue, Westmoreland Department of Public Safety, the Unity Township Road Crews. We had 2 emergency services agencies, PA Task Force 1, Command Post 600. Obviously, we had all of the Pennsylvania State Police resources, including all of our technical equipment, our ancillary services that we have within our department. And I'm going to mention these people last, but they're definitely not least, the Ligonier construction crew. Those people worked pretty impressive, and they were absolutely amazing. And they were a huge part of the efforts that took place. And sometimes you don't think of people that aren't in emergency services that can't be heroes, but I would have to say that those people are definitely incredible human beings, and they did a fabulous job. So I have to definitely lump them in with us because they were priceless. I don't know how else to say it. There were so many people also that reached out and either donated food, donated time, and I would be remiss if I didn't take the time to identify those individuals. And I have to start off with Mondays. The family that owns and runs that establishment, they were so kind with their time, with their resources, with everything they had going on, empathetic to the family, working through all of the hurdles and never batting an eye when they were asked to do something for us. I can't thank them enough. You really felt a sense of community when you were at that establishment, and they epitomize what it means to be a Southwestern human being. And I really can't, and I'm sure that the sentiments are echoed amongst all of the people that you see in front of you. They are probably some of the salt of the earth people that make up our community. Also helping and assisting us with all of the food items we received from Firehouse Subs, Chick-fil-A, Sharky's, which is a restaurant down the street, Speedway, which is a gas station that makes really good food. I was surprised for a gas station, and they stepped up to the plate. We're delivering food constantly. McDonald's, Gianelli's too, and Walmart, our local Walmarts, always step up to the plate to help us whenever we're in a time of crisis in our area. So with that being said, just to give you a little bit of the logistics of the recovery, during the course of the removal of dirt and sifting through things, we did find Elizabeth. We found her approximately 30 feet below the surface of where the mine would have sat. We found her at about 11:05. She was about 12 feet southwest of where the original sinkhole occurred. And if you were able to see some of the original video footage and the explanations we did, as the mine starts to deteriorate and the sinkhole starts to form, the best way I was able to come up, or we were able to come up to describe it, was it sort of creates like the appearance of what like a Hershey kiss would look like, and the best we can figure out right now, because obviously we don't have the autopsy back, we don't have all of the different things that go along with our investigation. When she fell through the shaft and she landed and struck that mound of, like we'll call it like Hershey kiss, it appears that she rolled or moved that 12 feet or so where our initial spot was, which was some of the impedance that caused difficulty for us to find her, because we know she was going to probably hit the top of that, and then where she went from there was going to be the difficulty of how the gravity affected her location. So with that being said, the overall sentiment amongst the group, I could tell you from sitting in the rooms and talking to people in the community, and my personal feeling is that I couldn't have been more happy for the family that we were able to find her, because that was the only thing that they were concerned with after yesterday, was if they can have her so that they can do what's right when it comes to a memorialized service and having a viewing and all the things that everyone should deserve to have, if that's what your faith believes. And they wanted that, and we worked around the clock and got, I'll be honest with you, some of the concerns, they were getting dashed a little bit, but the hard work from the people that ran the show up here, they were incredible, and I can't thank them enough. On behalf of the family, we grieve for you, and our heart aches for what you're having to go through, and for the messages that we've had to deliver to you, and sitting down and going to your home and sitting down and talking to you. So please accept our condolences. And with that being said, I'd like to turn it over, because I'm sure you probably have some questions. So we don't have a ton of answers, but maybe we could have some of the individuals that were spearheading and running the operations, talk about some of the logistics maybe, and some of the things that happened. And I'm sure there's people that need to be thanked that I forgot. So with that being said, if Scott, would you be able to come up here? I'm going to have the incident commander, Scott Graham, come up and talk to you guys briefly. Thank you, Scott.
From all the responders and emergency services personnel that were on scene, we do extend our condolences to the family. We'd like to have had a better outcome, but were able to bring Elizabeth home. Our thoughts and prayers will continue with the family as they go through their grieving process. I think one of the things that I'd like to point and stress is this wasn't just a Unity Township response. We had multiple counties from throughout southwestern Pennsylvania. We had the Bureau of Mines. We've had representatives from Harrisburg through Pima, through we talked to folks from the governor's office, senators, representatives. This was a Pennsylvania response to this incident. As Steve said, we had 25 fire departments on the scene, plus there was countless departments that went to their stations, to get ready to respond. We had different response agencies as well that, called, offered technical advice, technical assistance. So this wasn't just a Unity Township response. This was a huge, huge response to this incident. We did establish the incident command quickly, and it was used throughout. It is still running until later. The technical assistance we got from the Bureau of Mines and from Ligonier Construction was amazing. We're not experts in everything. We'll listen to the experts.
Does anybody have any questions that they might want to ask? Okay, thanks. Appreciate you. With that being said, John, would you like to come up here? John, he was in charge of operations.
Thank you. I think the biggest thing that I wanted to stress to everybody, this was quite a relief. I'll be honest with you. I felt a little defeated yesterday. Difficult to go to bed, and I wasn't the only one. A lot of emergency responders felt defeated, and I heard that from some of our troopers as well, that they could add on to that as well. We're very relieved that we were able to accomplish our goal. Obviously, would have been best if we could have found her alive. We knew after a period of time that was probably not going to be likely, unfortunately. We're looking at an incident. We're working over 80 hours, over 3.5 days. So it's very difficult. Very appreciative of my firefighters and all the local agencies and surrounding departments. Every firefighter from those places, including even the staff of our township road crews and county road crews that came and stepped up and did what they needed to do. Very appreciative for all the effort and the what they did to help us out today through this. Thank you.
No one has any questions about the operations part of it? Mike, would you like to come up here? There's Michael Bartow. He's our township supervisor.
Our hearts and prayers go out to the Pollard family. Unity Township is a tight-knit community. We were made of several old coal mining towns, and of course Marguerite's one of them. And when people suffer, we all suffer. The people of Unity Township are sad today. We are so fortunate that we're able to have the resources that we're able to come in to Unity Township from the Pennsylvania State Police, from our own volunteer fire service, EMS, as well as many organizations from the state, as well as the county. And my hope is that a tragedy like this never happens again. Thank you.
But is there anybody over there that needs to come up here at all? Okay. With that being said, I know there were some other things that people are concerned about, and I think we should talk a little bit about some of those things and where we're headed. I know a lot of people that live down in, and for those of you that are watching this that don't know southwestern Pennsylvania, we have a lot of patch towns that we call them, and they're small communities, and a lot of them are involved in coal mining, and we would consider this one of our little patch towns. So the people that live here, we can understand their concern about the fact that we had this horrible tragedy take place. So right now there are people from the mining division that work on reclamation and shoring up the mine. They are right now working on that, and they have engineers that are working here, and we are working to they're going to put the dirt back, and then they're going to talk about putting a grout in there eventually and shoring up the entire area. At the conclusion of this, I'm also going to provide you guys a phone number and a contact in case you live in southwestern Pennsylvania and you feel that there's a concern for the area that you live, or you notice something suspicious. They actually go out and do investigations to make sure that you don't have what could possibly be developing as a sinkhole. So I'm going to provide that information for you as well. With that being said, is there anybody that has a question specifically for me that I can answer? Yes.
About that reclamation you were talking about, Steve. When one of these days when we were talking about just the length and depth of this mine, and surely there are others like it all throughout our area. Will they be going in not to just this part under Monday's restaurant, but will they be going into all the finger tunnels and things and shoring that up?
Sure. So I could tell you, when sitting through the meetings, they absolutely plan on going into all of that particular area and that whole mine complex, I'm going to call it for lack of better terms. It's almost like a little mini town underneath this town, which it's wild once you see the maps. And then the concern also is, are those maps correct and things of that nature. So they're going to work through all of that reclamation group. They seem really sharp, I'll be honest with you, when we were talking to them and their capabilities. And I've actually seen it happen in neighboring towns where it's, for lack of better terms, it's almost like the pumping of what appears to be concrete into into the mines. They call it a grouting of some sort. I'm not an expert in it. I'm just from watching it and sitting in on some of these meetings. I've gotten an education, and that's something that they're definitely looking into. I'll be surprised if it doesn't happen. They're talking about doing it in the very near future. So I think that's important for the people that live in this community to understand that. But also, if you live in a different community that might have some type of mining and things of that nature, they will go out and investigate for you if you have something suspicious going on. And I thought that was great to hear, and we're going to provide you that information later on.
I know yesterday you had talked about what the plan was today to drill holes down in the
Yes.
ground and send cameras down there. Is that sort of how today played out, or how did today sort of pan out for you guys?
Today was a blessing from God, and the hard work of Ligonier Construction and the plans that these people in front of you put in place to find where she possibly could have went based off of falling through that hole, and it was their hard work to pinpoint an area, and we still had, unfortunately, and one of the things I always tell it's one of the things I always say. I guess we all have our little sayings. I always say, well, it'll be the last place I look, right? Because once I find it, and she was in the last place we looked, and we were fortunate that we were at the stage where we were going to be drilling the holes and didn't have to. So I think obviously the overall sentiment was we obviously definitely wanted to find her alive. I mean, that's without saying. But we also wanted to do right by the family. I mean, right, like they were just asking, can you please find her? And we were tapping out of almost all of our resources. We weren't quitting, but we were running, and that's why you see some of the people here from federal agencies and our state agencies that are like, okay, well, what's next? What else can we possibly do? Because that's where we were at, and the plans that they had in place, and the last place that we were able to get to, that's where she was.
Do we know if obviously she's with the coroner now?
Yes.
Do we have any idea, was it the fall that might have killed her, or?
I think there's a legitimate chance that we can get those answers, but we don't have them now. I think after the autopsy, there might be a strong possibility that we have something, and our coroner's office does a really good job, and obviously this is a priority, right? So that's something that we have happening. I'll be honest with you, probably happening like really right now, or really close to right now. Jeff could.
The Hershey kiss-shaped structure.
Yes.
You mentioned at the bottom of the sinkhole. Do you know if that was rock?
So it's a mixture, right? It's just the decay and deterioration of the mine over the last, and I'll just throw like 75-ish years, right? So it's just that constant deterioration of the erosion from above, and that's the hole that she fell through. Right?
Is there a estimate of how much earth was moved?
Wow, you know what? That is an incredible question, and it is a lot. It's a tremendous amount, and I maybe there's some photos. Were you guys able to get photographs from this? Okay, so it is amazing, but I'll ask that question from the construction guys. They might know just from all the work they do.
The folks at Mondays, they've been incredible,
Yes.
as you were saying, and I'm sure they're relieved, and they want to get back open for business.
Yes.
Is there a timeline for them?
It's a great question. Yes, so they want to take the rest of the weekend, and Mondays is actually closed on Mondays, so they're actually going to take the rest of the weekend, and I know that the fire department is going to have volunteers go down, and I know the township is already going to work on hiring cleaning crews so that we can all try and put them back together. They've been through one heck of a whirlwind. That could easily have happened to one of them. Let's be honest. It could have happened to one of them. They're walking on that property, putting the garbage out, things of that nature. It could have happened to them, and they understand that. And I think you've heard it from the chief. Like we're a tight knit community. We're sending volunteers to go down and help put their place back together. That's the least we could do for them, for how they treated us. It's just the way things go here in southwestern Pennsylvania. You know, when people ask like what is it like to be a person in southwestern Pennsylvania? The best example I could give them is if you're lost, we're not giving you directions. The people around here don't give you directions. They say, hey, follow me. I'll drive you over to where we're going, where you're going, because you're lost. That's how these people are. It's an honor to work and serve in the community. We're blessed to be troopers in southwestern Pennsylvania, and I look at us as being the lucky ones to be able to work here. That's how I feel.
I know earlier in the week you had to shift the plan and not be able to send crews down physically.
Yeah.
Were you able today to send crews physically down to retrieve Pollard?
So, we were. I think that's a better operations or a chief question. So, do you mind answering that question up at the podium? Would you mind answering that?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you, sir.
To recover Elizabeth today, we used machinery instead of sending folks down into the hole and into the mine structure itself, because as we were still working, today we still had collapse of the mine roof and mine sides. With the machinery that was there, they were able to extricate her from the hole because it was not safe for us to send anybody down.
I appreciate it. Thanks for clarifying that for them. Okay, if there's you have another question?
More specific with some details about Ligonier Construction's role, what exactly was used, what.
Yeah, I think that also falls, I feel like, under the operations. John, would you be willing to answer that question? I'll let our operations chief.
We needed heavy equipment to do that. To make that happen, we had to do an emergency declaration through our township supervisors to be able to hire somebody without a bidding process. That's part of the Pennsylvania Emergency Management System. Our PEMA director could add on that. That's something that is in place for every municipality in the state. Once that happened, that declaration was made. I honestly don't know who gave their suggestion of Ligonier Construction, but somebody that knew enough and knew that they had the equipment and the personnel to do that. Surprisingly, we expected they might get some equipment in later that day. I believe that first excavator was there within 2 hours and 15 minutes. How they did that, where they did that, they were amazing. They had that and a front end loader. And before you know it, there was a crew of maybe a dozen people there, and they were busting hump to get done what needed to be done. So I give them a whirlwind of credit to do what they did. They knew what equipment they needed after a couple phone calls and talking to people on scene. So they were on top of it, top notch, without a doubt. They didn't stop. They were there, and they said, we are here until you tell us to go home, basically is what they told us. So awesome. Very good.
What's sort of next for, we talked about getting Mondays cleaned up and open, but there was talk about potentially losing part of their garage or any of the structures that are there. Is all that going to be okay, or do you know?
So that's a great question, and I think that's a question that we're going to work through into the future, because their garage is really close to an area. They did have it condemned so that it can be taken down by Ligonier Construction, who would have taken it down for us. But if we needed to take that down, I think there's a lot of things that we're going to have to work through into the future when it comes to when they put the dirt back and if they start the grouting process. How safe is that area? How safe do they feel? And I will go on to say, if somebody wants to go to that establishment, it'll be up and running. There's no problems where we were parking. I mean, we had all of our equipment in our vehicles. It was the backside of that property, which really isn't necessarily, we'll call it, open to the public at all. That's the area that was of concern. That front area, I mean, we couldn't have parked much heavier vehicles on that front area. So I feel confident that that's a safe area to be in. Is there any other? If there's no other questions, you have a question?
Yes, you said earlier that it would take about a year to fill the mine.
I was at a place that took over a year.
Okay.
That's where I was at, and it takes a lot because they keep pumping that concrete in. I kept driving by. I thought something was wrong when I went to a place, and I started to look into that because I didn't understand how could you be putting concrete. That's how they do it. It was. I thought it was interesting, and I'm not gonna lie to you. If when that starts to happen down here, I'm probably gonna want to look into it and research it. And I was personally fascinated. You know.
And during that time, are you going to be looking for possible other sinkholes as the reports come in? It might be
We're
potentially have to relocate.
Yeah, so we're gonna be providing the phone number out to the person that group that actually inspects it, because I'm sure there's people here that are concerned, right? And we want to make sure that we provide that information so that if they see a depression that's inconsistent or something that's inconsistent that they saw before, then I think they should have it looked at. And we have the people that are willing. They volunteered that. The gentleman was literally saying, "Here are my business cards. If somebody sees a depression, please tell people." So I applaud them for looking to make sure people are safer. Like they're all in on that's their job and that's what they're willing to do. So I wanted to make sure I provided that phone number for you guys later. So if you wanted to put it on your station's websites or whatever news outlet you have, so you can provide that information to the people that are in our region, southwestern Pennsylvania. And I'd applaud you if you put it out throughout the whole country. It won't be our phone numbers, but for southwestern Pennsylvania, that'll be the phone number that you have.
Do you have a time estimate of when the concrete pouring process?
That probably isn't a question I can answer today. I know that they're over there working right now, and they've working through getting the permission from the owner of the establishment to basically have full reign and access to the mines. I know they were working through that as we were leaving. That was something they were literally like a baton handing it off, so that there's the operations just continuing. Their goal is to have that filled in tonight.
You guys knew that the mine was there. It wasn't kept. All the maps were like 70, 80 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been much more difficult had it been an unknown mine.
Yeah, not having the maps and having the Department of Mining there and having their individuals, I think that was intricate in our being able to try and find out where she could possibly be, what were our options. When you're in these types of emergency situations, you're trying to figure out, okay, this is what I know, this is what I don't know, right? And these are the things I need to try and find out, right? So we with their help, we were able to have a larger category in, okay, this is what we know, right? And then from what we know, now what can we progress through the rest of it to see how safe it is, how accurate our locations could be on where we think she can be, and what the chances of survival are. And that was, they were intricate in that, and that was what we were basically doing almost the entire time. When they were sitting in the command staff. Well, they were doing it. I sat in the command staff and watched them do it. But it was great watching this group work together and just being a fly on their expertise. So I think with that being said, we probably covered just about everything. I will get you that number. I think it's very important if you're willing to put that out there so that the other people in the community are safe. And just a huge thank you to everybody that helped us. I know, like, it was a rough go emotionally. We were all going through it, and there was some times when you started doubting yourself, and can't thank everybody enough. And we appreciate the support. And if you have other questions, you want to send them to us in email. I could maybe answer stuff in email. Probably going to try and update you guys at a later date when we have information on an autopsy. And then if you could leave the family, they sort of want privacy. So if we could kind of like leave them alone a little bit, and not a little bit, a lot. And then I'm going to try and make them present. There's going to be a service. I'm sure there's going to be people that want to either send flowers or give their condolences. We'll work through something. I could be like the liaison to help you guys with the service if we're going to head that route. And I would think I would have that information by the time I'm getting some information about the autopsy. So I would think it'll be sometime early next week. So if you guys could be patient and leave the family alone, we could reconvene sometime next week, and I'll give you ample notice, and then we'll talk about what the arrangements are going to be, and maybe I have some autopsy information for you at that time as well, and maybe hopefully have some information about the reclamation, and maybe some times and dates of the grouting of when that might be starting. Okay, so thank you for your time. Thank you for all the people that said prayers and kept the family, the Pollard family, in your thoughts and prayers, and the people that reached out to us. We felt the support from the community while we were there, and I know there was times that we you kind of felt defeated, and it's a better outcome than there was a point in time when this is a better outcome than we thought. Well, I thought we were going to have, and I just want to say thank you. Can't thank you enough. Thanks for rooting for us, and keep the Pollard family in your prayers. Thank you. Here's the guy's business card.